How well do you really know Joseph, the dreamer who rose from a pit to a palace? If you think you've mastered his inspiring journey, then this quiz is for you. Join us for 50 thrilling questions that will test your knowledge of Joseph's incredible life, from his dreams to his destiny. Comment your answers as we go, and don't forget, subscribe to support this channel and help spread the gospel to others. Plus, hit that share button to challenge your friends and family. Let's spread God's word together. Ready for this? Let's dive in. Question 1. Who was Joseph's father? Was it A. Abraham, B. Isaac, C. Jacob, or D. Esau? You have 10 seconds. The answer is C. Jacob. Genesis 37:3 says, Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. Joseph was Jacob's favorite son. Favoritism can cause jealousy, but God's plan works beyond family conflicts. Question 2. What did Joseph's brothers do to him out of jealousy? Was it A. sold him into slavery, B. protected him, C. made him a king, or D. gave him gifts? Take your time. The answer is A. sold him into slavery. Genesis 37:28 says, And they sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt. Jealousy leads to harmful actions, but God can work through even bad situations for good. Question 3. Who bought Joseph as a slave in Egypt? Was it A. Pharaoh, B. Potiphar, C. a merchant, or D. Moses? Go ahead. The answer is B. Potiphar. Genesis 39:1 says, And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him. Even in tough times, God is with us. Joseph stayed faithful, and God blessed him. Question 4. What did Potiphar's wife accuse Joseph of? Was it A. stealing, B. lying, C. attacking her, or D. dishonesty? You've got this. The answer is C. attacking her. Genesis 39:16 says, And she laid up his garment by her until his Lord came home. False accusations happen, but we must hold on to integrity like Joseph, knowing God values our faithfulness. Question 5. Where was Joseph taken after being falsely accused? Was it A. home, B. palace, C. the market, or D. prison? Think carefully. The answer is D. prison. Genesis 39:20 says, And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison. Even in unfair situations, God is at work. Joseph's faithfulness in prison prepared him for greater responsibilities. Question 6. Who were Joseph's fellow prisoners in Egypt? Was it A. the chief butler and chief baker, B. Pharaoh's sons, C. his brothers, or D. Egyptians? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is A. the chief butler and chief baker. Genesis 40:2 says, And Pharaoh was wroth against two of his officers, against the chief of the butlers, and against the chief of the bakers. God can use us to bless others no matter where we are, even in difficult places like prison. Question 7. What did the butler's dream involve? Was it A. 3 loaves of bread, B. 3 horses, C. 3 branches of grapes, or D. 3 stars? Take your time. The answer is C. 3 branches of grapes. Genesis 40 verse 10 says, And in the vine were 3 branches, and her blossoms shot forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. God gives us gifts to help others, just as Joseph used his gift to interpret dreams and bring hope. Question 8. What happened to the chief baker after Joseph interpreted his dream? Was it A, promoted, B, imprisoned, C, hanged, or D, released? You have 10 seconds. The answer is C. He was hanged. Genesis 40, verse 19 says, "Within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head from off thee, and shall hang thee on a tree." Sometimes God's messages are difficult, but we must accept his truth and be faithful in delivering it. Question 9. How long did Joseph remain in prison after the butler was released? Was it A, 6 months, B, 2 years, C, 5 years, or D, 1 year? Think carefully. The answer is B, 2 years. Genesis 40:23 says, "Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgat him." God's timing is perfect. Even in long periods of waiting, like Joseph's, we must trust that God is working behind the scenes for our good. Question 10. What was Pharaoh's first dream that Joseph interpreted? Was it A, 7 thin cows eating 7 fat cows, B, a giant tree, C, 7 stars, or D, a flood? You've got this. The answer is A, 7 thin cows eating 7 fat cows. Genesis 41:2 says, "Behold, 7 well-favored kine and fat-fleshed, and they fed in a meadow." God grants wisdom to his people to guide others through difficult times, just as Joseph was used to prepare for famine. Question 11. What position did Pharaoh give Joseph after he interpreted the dreams? Was it A, chief servant, B, advisor, C, governor, or D, judge? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is C, governor. Genesis 41:40 says, "Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled." Joseph's faithfulness led to his promotion, reminding us that God can elevate us in his timing if we remain steadfast. Question 12. How old was Joseph when he became governor of Egypt? Was it A, 20, B, 30, C, 40, or D, 50? Take your time. The answer is B, 30. Genesis 41:46 says, "Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh." God's timing is perfect, and though it took years for Joseph to rise to leadership, it reminds us to trust God's plan, even if it seems delayed. Question 13. What did Joseph do to prepare for the 7 years of famine? Was it A, gave away food, B, built homes, C, stored up grain, or D, sold land? Think carefully. The answer is C, stored up grain. Genesis 41:48 says, "He gathered up all the food of the 7 years." Joseph's foresight and stewardship during the years of plenty remind us to prepare and manage resources wisely, trusting God to guide our efforts. Question 14. What was the name of Joseph's Egyptian wife? Was it A, Asenath, B, Sarah, C, Rachel, or D, Rebecca? You have 10 seconds. The answer is A, Asenath. Genesis 41:45 says, "Pharaoh gave him to wife Asenath." Even in foreign places or situations, God can provide for us. Joseph's marriage reminds us that God's blessings often come in unexpected ways and times. Question 15. What were the names of Joseph's two sons? Was it A. Ephraim and Manasseh, B. Cain and Abel, C. Isaac and Jacob, or D. Moses and Aaron? Go ahead. The answer is A. Ephraim and Manasseh. Genesis 41:51 says, "And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh." Joseph's naming of his sons reflects his gratitude to God, reminding us to thank God for his blessings, which can transform hardships into joy. Question 16. During the famine, who came to Egypt to buy food? Was it A. Joseph's brothers, B. Pharaoh's family, C. Egyptians, or D. merchants? You have 10 seconds. The answer is A. Joseph's brothers. Genesis 42:3 says, "Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn." God brings restoration even through painful pasts. Joseph's reunion with his brothers shows how God orchestrates situations for reconciliation and healing. Question 17. How did Joseph initially his brothers when they came to Egypt? Was it A. welcomed them, B. accused them of being spies, C. gave them gifts, or D. fought them? You have 10 seconds. The answer is B. accused them of being spies. Genesis 42:7 says, "And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them." God tests our hearts and character, as Joseph did with his brothers, to reveal true repentance and honesty. Question 18. What condition did Joseph set for his brothers to return to Egypt for more food? Was it A. bring their youngest brother, B. pay double, C. work for him, or D. bring their father? You've got this. The answer is A. bring their youngest brother. Genesis 42:20 says, "And bring your youngest brother unto me." Sometimes God tests our love and loyalty for others, as Joseph tested his brothers' care for their family. Question 19. Who did Joseph keep in Egypt while the other brothers returned home? Was it A. Judah, B. Reuben, C. Levi, or D. Simeon? Take your time. The answer is D. Simeon. Genesis 42:24 says, "He took from them Simeon and bound him before their eyes." God sometimes withholds blessings to see if we are willing to do what is right, as Joseph detained Simeon to test his brother's sincerity. Question 20. What did Joseph instruct his steward to put in Benjamin's sack? Was it A. gold coins, B. a silver cup, C. a scroll, or D. Pharaoh's seal? You have 10 seconds. The answer is B. a silver cup. Genesis 44:2 says, "Put my cup, the silver cup, in the sack's mouth of the youngest." God often tests us to reveal whether we have truly repented and changed, as Joseph tested his brother's loyalty. Question 21. Which brother offered to stay as Joseph's servant in place of Benjamin? Was it A. Judah, B. Reuben, C. Levi, or D. Dan? Take your time. The answer is A. Judah. Genesis 44:33 says, "Let thy servant abide instead of the lad a bondman to my Lord." Judah's willingness to sacrifice himself for Benjamin mirrors Christ's sacrificial love for humanity, showing that true love is demonstrated through service. Question 22. What did Joseph do when he revealed himself to his brothers? Was it A. wept loudly, B. laughed, C. punished them, or D. fled from them? Go ahead. The answer is A, wept loudly. Genesis 45 verse 2 says, "And he wept aloud, and the Egyptians and the house of Pharaoh heard." Joseph's weeping shows the power of forgiveness and reconciliation, which heals relationships and brings emotional freedom, just as God forgives us and calls us to forgive others. Question 23. How did Joseph explain the events that led him to Egypt? Was it A, he blamed his brothers, B, he said it was God's plan, C, he regretted the past, or D, he said he was lucky? Take your time. The answer is B, he said it was God's plan. Genesis 45:5 says, "For God did send me before you to preserve life." God is sovereign over all circumstances, using difficult situations for our good, as Joseph explained his journey to Egypt as part of God's plan to save lives. Question 24. What did Pharaoh offer Joseph's family when they moved to Egypt? Was it A, the land of Goshen, B, gold and silver, C, free labor, or D, cattle and sheep? You have 10 seconds. The answer is A, the land of Goshen. Genesis 47 verse 6 says, "In the best of the land make thy father and brethren to dwell." God provides abundantly for his people, even in foreign lands, as seen in Pharaoh's generous offer to Joseph's family. Question 25. How many people from Jacob's family went to Egypt? Was it A, 33, B, 50, C, 70, or D, 120? Go ahead. The answer is C, 70. Genesis 46:27 says, "All the souls of the house of Jacob which came into Egypt were 70. God's promises to Abraham were being fulfilled as Jacob's family became numerous in Egypt, showing God's faithfulness to generations. Question 26. What did Joseph do when his father Jacob died? Was it A, he celebrated, B, he wept and mourned, C, he punished his brothers, or D, he left Egypt? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. He wept and mourned. Genesis 50 verse 1 says, "And Joseph fell upon his father's face and wept upon him and kissed him." Honoring and grieving loved ones is important, showing our deep respect and love, just as Joseph mourned for his father Jacob. Question 27. What did Joseph's brothers fear after Jacob's death? Was it A, that Joseph would punish them, B, that Pharaoh would kill them, C, that Joseph would return to Canaan, or D, that they would lose their property? Think carefully. The answer is A, that Joseph would punish them. Genesis 50 verse 15 says, "Joseph will certainly requite us all the evil which we did unto him." Guilt can cause fear, but forgiveness brings peace, as Joseph reassured his brothers of his continued care and forgiveness. Question 28. What did Joseph tell his brothers after Jacob died? Was it A, he would forgive them, B, he would provide for them, C, he would leave Egypt, or D, he would banish them? You have 10 seconds. The answer is B, he would provide for them. Genesis 50:21 says, "I will nourish you and your little ones." True forgiveness involves continued care and kindness, as Joseph's promise to provide for his brothers reflects God's forgiveness and provision for us. Question 29. How old was Joseph when he died? Was it A, 90, B, 110, C, 120, 130? Take your time. The answer is B, 110. Genesis 50:26 says, "So Joseph died, being 110 years old." A life lived in faithfulness to God often leaves a lasting legacy of blessings, as seen in Joseph's long life and impact on Egypt. Question 30. What did Joseph request before his death regarding his burial? Was it A, to be buried in Egypt, B, to be buried in Canaan, C, to be buried by the Nile, or D, to be buried with Pharaoh? You've got this. The answer is B, to be buried in Canaan. Genesis 50:24 says, "God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land." Joseph's request shows his unwavering faith in God's promises, reminding us to hold on to God's promises even when their fulfillment seems far off. Question 31. What role did Joseph's faith in God play in his life? Was it A, it led him to bitterness, B, it gave him strength and wisdom, C, it made him powerful, or D, it caused his downfall? You have 10 seconds. The answer is B, it gave him strength and wisdom. Genesis 50:20 says, "Ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good." Faith in God strengthens us in trials, giving us wisdom to navigate life's difficulties, just as Joseph relied on his faith in God throughout his journey from slavery to leadership. Question 32. How did Joseph interpret dreams while in Egypt? Was it A, through his own understanding, B, by consulting magicians, C, by God's power, or D, through Pharaoh's wisdom? You've got this. The answer is C, by God's power. Genesis 41:16 says, "It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace." All our talents and abilities are gifts from God. Joseph's humility in acknowledging God's power reminds us to trust in God's wisdom, rather than our own understanding. Question 33. What was the first dream Joseph had as a young boy? Was it A, his brother's sheaves bowing down to his, B, a ladder to heaven, C, his father bowing down to him, or D, his brothers eating together? Take your time. The answer is A, his brother's sheaves bowing down to his. Genesis 37:7 says, "Behold, your sheaves stood round about and made obeisance to my sheaf." God reveals his plans for our future through visions and dreams, as Joseph's dream symbolized his future leadership over his brothers. Question 34. What did Joseph's coat of many colors symbolize? Was it A, his wealth, B, his father's special favor, C, his dreams, or D, his strength? You have 10 seconds. The answer is B, his father's special favor. Genesis 37:3 says he made him a coat of many colors. Favoritism can cause strife in families. Joseph's coat serves as a reminder that while God may show us favor, we must strive for unity and love in our relationships, avoiding jealousy and resentment. Question 35. What did Joseph's brothers tell their father had happened to Joseph? Was it A, he was eaten by a wild animal, B, he drowned in a river, C, he went missing, or D, he was kidnapped? You've got this. The answer is A, he was eaten by a wild animal. Genesis 37:32 says, "This have we found, know now whether it be thy son's coat or no." Lies and deception cause long-lasting pain. Joseph's brother's lie reminds us of the harm dishonesty can bring, and God calls us to live truthfully. Question 36. What was Joseph's ultimate role in God's plan for his family? Was it A, to save them from famine, B, to bring them into slavery, C, to punish them for their sins, or D, to lead them to war? Think carefully. The answer is A, to save them from famine. Genesis 45:7 says, God sent me before you to preserve you a posterity in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. God places us in situations for his purposes, as Joseph was positioned in Egypt to save his family from famine. Question 37. What was Joseph's Egyptian name given by Pharaoh? Was it A, Potiphar, B, Zaphnath-Paneah, C, Asenath, or D, Merari? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B, Zaphnath-Paneah. Genesis 41:45 says, Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath-Paneah. God can elevate and use us in any culture or context. Joseph's new name and position in Egypt show how God's favor can be given to us in unexpected places. Question 38. What did Jacob say about Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh? Was it A, they would serve their uncles, B, they would be counted as his own sons, C, they would live in Egypt forever, or D, they would lead Egypt? Go ahead. The answer is B, they would be counted as his own sons. Genesis 48:5 says, Thy two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, are mine. God's blessings extend to future generations. Jacob's blessing of Ephraim and Manasseh teaches us about spiritual inheritance and God's blessings for those who are faithful. Question 39. Which of Joseph's brothers spoke up to prevent his death? Was it A, Judah, B, Reuben, C, Simeon, or D, Levi? You've got this. The answer is B, Reuben. Genesis 37:21 says, Let us not kill him. Speaking up against wrongdoing shows integrity and courage. Reuben's actions remind us of our responsibility to protect others and stand up for what is right, even when it's difficult or unpopular. Question 40. What was Pharaoh's second dream that Joseph interpreted? Was it A, 7 ears of corn, B, 7 horses, C, 7 swords, or D, 7 lambs? You have 10 seconds. The answer is A, 7 ears of corn. Genesis 41:6 says, 7 thin ears and blasted with the east wind sprang up after them. God often gives insight into future events so we can prepare. Joseph's interpretation teaches the importance of listening to God's guidance for navigating challenges wisely. Question 41. How did Joseph react when he saw Benjamin in Egypt? Was it A, hugged him, B, wept, C, punished him, or D, sent him away? Take your time. The answer is B, wept. Genesis 43:30 says, He sought where to weep. Love and compassion are powerful emotions that should not be suppressed. Joseph's tears show that it is natural to express deep feelings, especially when reunited with loved ones. God cares about our emotions. Question 42. How did Joseph test his brother's honesty? Was it A, by demanding a bribe, B, by giving them gifts, C, by putting a cup in Benjamin's sack, or D, by asking for their father? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is C, by putting a cup in Benjamin's sack. Genesis 44:2 says, Put my cup, the silver cup, in the sack's mouth of the youngest. God sometimes tests our character to see if we have truly changed. Joseph's test mirrors how God uses trials to help us grow in honesty and integrity. Question 43. Why did Joseph's brothers hate him? Was it A, because he was their father's favorite, B, because he was rich, C, because he was the youngest, or D, because he was older? You've got this. The answer is A, because he was their father's favorite. Genesis 37:4 says, "They hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him." Jealousy destroys relationships. The story of Joseph's brothers reminds us of the dangers of envy and the importance of cultivating love and contentment in families. Question 44. What did Joseph's dreams foreshadow? Was it A, his rise to power, B, his defeat, C, his brother's success, or D, his return to Canaan? You have 10 seconds. The answer is A, his rise to power. Genesis 37:6 says, "Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed." God reveals his plans for our future, but they often take time to unfold. Joseph's dreams remind us to be patient and trust God's promises to be fulfilled in his time. Wow! We have come to the end of the quiz. Thanks so much for joining us in today's Bible quiz on the life of Joseph. How did you do? Let us know in the comments what your score was and what you thought of the quiz. We'd love to hear from you. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel, give this video a thumbs up, and share it with your friends. Let's spread the word and encourage others to join in on the fun. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next Bible quiz. God bless.